A very good day to one and all present here. Thank you for joining us in this ITCON session. Thank you, team, for the brief introduction. So as you all know, my name is Nisha Balajee. I'm a product specialist from ManageEngine. Today in this session, as you are aware of, we are going to discuss in detail about the endpoint management strategies for a post-pandemic hybrid work environment. During the course of this session, in case you have any queries or questions, feel free to post them on the question section or on the chat box. You can always reach out to me via email. It's nisha.b@manageengine.com. Let me quickly walk you through the agenda that I've planned for today. First and foremost, we'll have a brief introduction on what are the recent trends in IT management and security layer throughout 2020 and what you can expect in the future. We'll also see how you can manage and secure all your endpoint devices and your users through a uni-dimensional approach. Then we'll also see a few tips and tricks on how you can adapt to this dynamic work environment where few of us are still working from home. Some of us have gone back to remote offices, adapting the new normal. So we will see how you can manage all these users and endpoints from a single tool or a single console. Finally, I'll also be giving you a few tips on how you can combat or thwart major cyber threats, that too from very simple cloud-based solutions. So this will be your key takeaway of this session. So let us start off and take a look at the cybersecurity landscape that we have today. So let me quickly throw up a few numbers for you to follow. Here's the data and stats collected for the first 2 quarters of 2020. As you can see, we have almost 117 data breaches occurring only in the first 2 quarters of 2020, and almost 1.5 billion records were breached. From this data, you can see that cyber crimes were up by almost 600%, with the majority of the reason owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. So what do these numbers actually tell us? Well, even though there's a brief pandemic in place, this never puts a full stop to cyber threats or cyber attacks. And how do these cyber threats originate? Well, the answer is quite simple. It always starts with your endpoints. So here, let me ask you all a quick question. What do you think is an endpoint, and what type of endpoints do you use to get your work done? You'll find this question on the poll on your screen. Please do post your responses on the poll. I'll wait for a couple of moments. Well, let me give you what I consider as an endpoint. Any and every device that you use to access your corporate data or your corporate files are considered an endpoint, which means your usual desktops, laptops, servers, mobile devices and tablets, and even point-of-sale devices. This also includes your corporate-owned devices and your personally owned BYOD devices. Now, in this list, if you see, I would have listed browsers. You might ask, why is this a part of an endpoint? Well, browsers, as most of you know, are the entry point to a majority of cyber attacks, which means we need to take stringent measures to secure our browsers along with all the other endpoints of our IT network. So we started off this session by talking about endpoint security. Now the question that might arise in everyone's mind is that why is endpoint security the need of the hour? Well, the answer to this might be known to almost all of you. The organization's network of every enterprise is this. Owing to the global pandemic, almost 90% of the organizations across the globe adapted to the remote work culture, which means all our corporate devices and our end users move to our remote location. Now, this has expanded our IT network, which might draw security cracks in our security layer. So we as sysadmins should take extreme precaution in securing all the devices across the globe. A recent research from Gartner says that the worldwide spending on cybersecurity is going to reach about 133 billion, which means all of us now, even looking after the cyber threat attacks on numbers, all of us are looking forward to spending more and more money on cyber security tools. But what if I were to tell you that you can manage all your devices and completely secure them from simple solutions? Well, these are called your endpoint management and security tools. Your regular day-to-day activities, such as your usual patch management, remotely troubleshooting devices for all of your end users, or updating software, along with security management like completely securing your browsers or having a complete overview of your assets, all these are interlinked with one another. So for an IT admin, his process is completely simplified if all of these tasks can be performed from one single tool. Endpoint management has evolved through multiple layers. So now, IT administrators are looking forward to solutions which will help them perform both your security and management tasks both proactively and reactively. So for an endpoint management tool, it all started with the term CMT, which means Client Management Tools. With the increase in your modern management of devices, we gave birth to a term which is your Enterprise Mobility Management. And the inclusion of mobile devices and tablets into the corporate network gave birth to another term which is your Mobile Device Management or MDM. Now, completely mixing up all your legacy or traditional management capabilities, your modern management capabilities for all your operating systems, which includes your desktops, laptops, and your mobile devices. All of the capabilities are now incorporated into a new term, which is called UEM or Unified Endpoint Management. So a single UEM solution is sufficient to cover your enterprise network completely and secure your network whole 24/7. So here, let me again pause and ask you all a quick question through the poll. How many tools do you use to manage your network endpoints? I'll give a few moments where you can answer the poll question on your screen. Well, what if I were to tell you that on an average, IT administrators and IT managers use 8 different tools to manage all their endpoints? It's a huge number, don't you think? And if this number is at present, imagine how many tools you are going to adapt for the recent trends that are here in the current scenario. Let us look at some recent or foremost strategies that are in place with respect to endpoint management and security. Here is a simple fact from Gartner, who says that by the end of 2030, the demand for remote work will increase by at least 30%, which is unsurprising considering how within a span of few days, almost all the organizations across the globe went completely remote owing to the pandemic in place. Now, this remote work culture gave birth to three major types of users almost in every network. Well, the first and foremost type is your regular users with your VPN access, which means your users like your salespeople or your on-site support team who are mostly on the go. So it is for these users who always have a VPN access configured and will not have a major change when you have a work from home environment in place. So as IT administrators, you needn't modify a lot of policies to manage this type of users. Next is your users who are majority like me, who are used to work in the comfort of our offices. So it is for us that you will have to configure new VPN access and modify your existing security policies to manage our devices. Now, there are cases where some organizations will also have users who do not require a VPN access. This is because they access most of their corporate data and corporate files from cloud-based applications. This COVID pandemic has highlighted many problems with traditional VPNs. Emerging zero trust network access enables enterprises to control remote accesses to specific applications. This is a more secure option as it hides application from the internet. So this in particular reduces the risk of an attacker piggybacking on the VPN connection to attack other applications. One other major trend which I've noticed from Gartner's research is automating security process to eliminate repetitive tasks. The availability of automation within security tools have driven the use of more security process automation. This technology automates computer-centric security operations and tasks based on predefined rules and templates. The automated security tasks can be performed much faster, and that too in a scalable way with minimum errors. However, there are diminishing returns to the building and maintaining automation. But leaders can now invest in automation projects that help to eliminate repetitive tasks that consume a lot of time and leaving more time to focus on other critical security functions. Moving on to one other major trend which is in place and is expected to develop in the very near future. No longer just a part of a compliance or a legal or auditing team. Privacy is becoming increasingly influential, defined discipline on its own, affecting almost all aspects of an organization. As rapidly growing standalone discipline, privacy needs to be more integrated throughout the organization. Specifically, the privacy discipline co-directs the corporate strategy and as such needs to closely align with security and procurement, HR, legal, governance, and much more. Now, this I'm sure is familiar to all of you and the core part of today's topic. Cloud-delivered security services are growing increasingly popular with the evolution of remote office technology. secure access, and software as a service (SaaS) technology allows organizations to better protect mobile workers and cloud applications by routing traffic through a cloud-based security stack, which is backhauling this traffic so as to it flows through a physical security system in a data center. So these are some of the major security trends which are evolving as we speak. But then, as we see the trends emerging in endpoint management, so are security challenges. Let us see few challenges that are at present, majority of it owing to the global pandemic. But before that, let me ask you all another quick question. Have you encountered a cyber attack in the past year? You can answer the poll question shown on your screen. I'll wait for a couple of minutes. Well, so as we were discussing, here are a few details of cyber attacks that happened owing to the global pandemic. In March and April 2020, more than 192,000 COVID-related cyber attacks were reported each week. Now, this is a 30% increase in the number of reported cyber attacks compared to those in the pre-coronavirus times. Businesses are at a greater risk of falling victim to cybercrime due to the large-scale growth of work from home, customer-facing issues, and other online which are exploited by cyber criminals. According to Data Connector's research, cyber attacks can spread at 9 times the rate of COVID-19. They can also lie dormant for months while they spread. The research points out that cyber pandemics, as they term, and the future such pandemics which could be cyber related could spread faster and further than a biological virus, with a greater economic impact. They estimate a global loss of internet which would cost about $50 billion per day. So what do these tell us? Cyber attacks and cyber threats are always lurking beneath the network structure. It is up to us to take proper measures to secure our network. So to adapt to this new normal and also fighting out to these cyber threats, let me give you a few pointers that you can take up. According to a source of University of Maryland research, hackers attack every 39 seconds, which means on an average close to 2,200 times a day. So it is up to us to spot the security loopholes in our network before it's too late. We will discuss in detail about 6 steps where you can easily spot any security threat or issue which may be present in your network. First up is the access to corporate resources. As we spoke earlier, due to the work from home policy being in place, VPN access is now granted to almost all the users at a network level. But in case an endpoint with the proper VPN access is compromised, this may lead to a conflict, which means any endpoint which is compromised may pose serious security threats to your network. Also, without proper control over the access to your corporate or confidential data, or the use of external devices like your unauthorized USB devices may pose threat, as these devices may copy or store unauthorized data. So this is one major step which every IT administrator should monitor constantly. Moving on to the next major step is your BYOD devices security. Almost 60% of the organizations allow employee-owned devices to access their network. Now, owing to the pandemic in place, with all of us working from home, everyone are now finding it easier to use their personal devices to perform their everyday day-to-day corporate tasks. So your IT admin's job is much more difficult as you will have to secure both your corporate owned devices and also your BYOD devices. There may be cases where there are access to unauthorized personal or corporate data. Now, in case one such BYOD device is misplaced or stolen, you have a very good chance that the data, your corporate data in that device may be compromised. So you need to take measures to secure or ensure that the data gets wiped out in case it is missing from your radar. Next major threat comes in the form of applications. Now, applications can cause a number of threats that you will have to constantly monitor and secure. Always as IT administrators, we ensure or choose to see which applications are safe and automatically install them in our employees' devices. But threats may arise when the employees install application by themselves from unauthorized sources. Also, there are cases where you have security threats with certain applications and you would have blacklisted them from your network. So use of such prohibited applications or any malicious executables in your devices, employees' devices, may pose serious security issues in your network. This is one major step which closely aligns with what we spoke before, which is managing the privileges that you grant to your network users. When your user has the privilege to add browser extensions or browser add-ons without properly authorizing them, can pose security issues. Also, when you provide your user your default administrator credentials or your root credentials, that particular user or that endpoint can have complete access to your ID network. And this, if it falls into wrong hands, may completely compromise your network security. Now, this is also something that we discussed with respect to browser management. So when you have to secure your browsers, one major step is to completely monitor and ensure that downloads do not happen from untrusted websites. Also, in case of any malicious attachments or any URLs which are restricted, should completely be blocked from your end users' browsers. This is one which may bring serious security threats or issues to your IT network. Now, this completely depends on the hands of your IT administrator, which is delay in deployment of critical updates. As IT administrators, our regular day-to-day job involves deploying OS updates, application updates, or patch updates. Now, when there is a delay in deploying updates or critical updates in case of vulnerabilities or any zero-day exploits, this may not just cause security issues, but also pose issues with your functioning of your endpoints. So these are few major steps if you look into. You can easily spot any security threat that might be lurking in your IT network. So we have spoken now enough about how you can spot security threats or security loopholes. Now it's time to completely fortify your IT network. Saying that, let me ask you all another quick question through the poll. What steps do you think can be taken to mitigate a cyber threat? I'll give a few moments for you to answer the question. What if I were to tell you that according to Gartner, by the end of 2020, security services are expected to account for about 50% of cybersecurity budgets. More and more IT administrators are looking forward to solutions which will completely cover your IT network and management capabilities. So we saw that a proper endpoint management tool can help you out with this issue. From client management tool to enterprise mobility management and mobile device management capabilities, we have now evolved to UEM or Unified Endpoint Management. Then what is the future of endpoint management? Does it stop with UEM? Well, let me tell you, we are one step ahead. A UEM solution completely based from a cloud environment. Let me quickly take you to a simple product of ManageEngine. ManageEngine's UEM tool, which is Desktop Central, is now completely hosted on cloud. From this page, which is manageengine.com/products/desktop-central/free-trial.html, you can access or sign up for a 30-day free trial version of Desktop Central Cloud. With one click, you can completely manage and secure all your network endpoints. So here, let me show how you can create a secure remote setup with a cloud-based UEM solution. Let me quickly walk you through 6 points that I have, which you can simply follow and ensure that a proper management and security routine is set in place. Let us look into them in detail. First and foremost is to minimize your attack surface. So as we discussed, it is necessary that you implement a zero trust policy. Next, you need to eliminate any high-risk software that may be present in your network. And also, you can deploy security configurations to manage and secure your IT network. To do this, there are just a few simple steps when you have a simplified cloud-based UEM solution. This is the product console. So here, you will see that from the inventory tab, you will get a complete detail of all the hardware and software details of your IT network. So it is just sufficient that when you have the total list of software details present, you can blacklist or prohibit any high-risk software present in your IT network. Not just blacklist, you can also choose to uninstall such malicious applications from your network. Then again, I spoke about security policies. Now this is another simple solution. You have something called configurations, where you have 40 plus configurations for Windows, Mac, and Linux operating systems. So here you can create what is called as collections, which is nothing but a group of configurations for your desktops and laptops. and choose configurations, say like your firewall management, your securing your USB devices and other security policies, and customize it each one accordingly. So once this is done, you can deploy all your configurations with one single click. Now moving on, we spoke at length about the issues that might arise with BYOD devices. But steps to securing your BYOD devices is quite simple. You can choose to lock down your devices while using specific applications, or also you can secure access while accessing your corporate documents. Or in case you find a device off its radar, you can choose to completely wipe or just have a corporate wipe present such that the data, essential or private data in that particular device is erased. This way, even if the device is lost or misplaced, your data is still secure. Now, with respect to security issues, you can always create security policies for your mobile devices and your BYOD devices. For that again, it's just one simple click away. Here, you have options to create independent policies depending on the operating system. So here, I can create profiles based on my operating system. Say I'm going to choose Android devices. Now here you can see that you have numerous profiles that you can configure, be it your passcode application or enabling various restrictions based on the device functionality, your security, the date and time settings or the display settings, even your browser restriction. You can also choose to configure your Wi-Fi on your BYOD and mobile devices and also your VPN access. So once you completely customize the profile according to every endpoint, you can simply ensure that this profile is deployed to your target devices. This way, all your BYOD devices will remain secure and under the management and control of your IT network. Moving on, let us see how to control and secure applications. So we did see that applications may pose a serious threat if it is installed from unauthorized users. So first step, as we saw before, is to blacklist your applications which you deem to be malicious. So once you choose that an application is blacklisted, you can automatically uninstall this application from every endpoint in your network. Now the next step is that you can deploy only enterprise approved applications, which means here under the software deployment tab, you have capabilities to create application packages and deploy them to your target computers. You also have almost 8,000 plus predefined templates, which means with one single click, you can create an application package. So when this package is configured, you can choose to automatically deploy all your enterprise required applications to your target devices. Now, in case your end user feels that they require specific applications which is not automatically present in the device, for such cases, your end users can use an option called self-service portal to raise a request to you as IT administrators and get your approval before deploying any particular application. So you will have a complete overview on what applications are present in every endpoint and also have the proper access to choose whether or not to deploy your employees' applications in case they raise a request. Next step is conducting your cyber hygiene measures, most importantly for your browsers. So for your browser management, there are two simple steps. One is managing your browsers with your mobile devices. So as we saw, you can create policies or profiles and impose restrictions on your browsers. And for your desktops and laptops, you have one simple configuration available, which is your browser management capabilities. Let me quickly show you. So you have something called browser configuration, which means you can apply restrictions and manage and secure all your browsers, be it loading your default search engine or your download details, or setting up your proxy details, or imposing restrictions on your add-ons and extensions. So with these being implemented, you can ensure that your browsers are completely secure and will not allow any cyber threats to penetrate your ID network. Now, this is something that again lies in the hands of IT administrators, which is prioritizing your patch deployment and your software updates. Now, Desktop Central can aid every IT administrator in this. You have complete patch management capabilities where with one single dashboard view will give you enough details on what are the missing patches, how critical are these patches, and with single clicks, you can directly deploy these patches to your target computers. Similarly, in case of software updates, you can choose to automatically deploy the software updates to all the endpoints, or when they are connected in a work from home environment, you can choose to post the updates in your self-service portal such that your end users, when they connect to the network, they can automatically view the updates available and update any and every application present in their device. So with these simple steps, you can ensure that your device is completely secure in your IT network. One last step is about your security configurations, which is like security policies like your firewall security or your password policies. Now, this again can be implemented through the collection feature of Desktop Central, where you can deploy multiple security policies at one single go. So all of these are about endpoint security. But as we saw in the very first step, endpoint management and endpoint security are interlinked with each other. As much as there are steps that you will have to take to manage and secure your devices, endpoint management has two other layers. One step of endpoint management is remotely troubleshooting your IT devices. And also, you need to constantly monitor the performance of your endpoints and also your end users. Now, you may have very often requests that you will have to address for troubleshooting any devices. IT administrators, I'm sure, will have requests raising every minute as we speak, especially now in the remote work environment. So to troubleshoot your devices, one simple tool can help you gain unattended remote access. Now, during a remote session, when you have the capability to transfer files dynamically during a live session, this can simplify your troubleshooting process. Also, you can have multiple technicians in place where you can collaborate and check on what exactly the issue is with your end users' devices. For audit purposes, you will have to record your remote sessions, and also without even taking remote sessions, you have capabilities to lock or shut down your remote devices. Now, such capabilities are available in a complete UEM solution. From our ManageEngine's flagship endpoint management tool, which is Desktop Central, you have capabilities of remote troubleshooting, which means here you will have the list of devices available. So with one single click, you can automatically connect to the end user and take a remote session. Like I said, you can choose to record the entire session. Now for privacy issues, which we discussed, which is a mandate here, you can choose to obtain your user confirmation before taking a complete remote session. Now these capabilities and features will reduce your troubleshooting time by almost 75%. One other step that we discussed is monitoring the performance of all your remote endpoints and your end users. So to monitor the performance of your endpoints, you can choose to get a complete detail from your IT assets inventory. So as we saw before, your IT assets can provide all the details of your hardware and software present in the entire network. Using this, you can collect reports to enable the performance of your users. Say your user log on or log off report or your power management of your devices can give you an idea of when the particular user logs on to your corporate devices. Also, you can monitor the usage of applications in your network, which means say you have applications, business applications for which are licensed, and you feel that this is not completely utilized by your end users. You can choose to meter or track the usage of such applications. Also, in case of the work from home environment, some end users might tend to use other applications, maybe watch movies or videos or play games during their business hours. So the metering of such applications can give you an idea of when and how the application is used, and then you can choose to blacklist such applications which hinder the performance of your end users. Also, as we saw before, you can track the user's web activity to get a complete detail, not just for security, but also for the performance analysis. Let me all ask you another quick question. So till now, we've seen how detailed or how simplified you can manage your IT network using cloud-based UEM solution. Now, let me ask you if you prefer a cloud-based solution for your network's endpoint management. You can post your answers in the poll shown on your screen. I'll wait for a couple of minutes. Well, if you do prefer cloud-based applications, ManageEngine's endpoint management and security suite of products will not disappoint you. We have complete products for patch management or your remote troubleshooting capabilities or tools to customizely manage your mobile devices, such as your Mobile Device Manage Plus and also your Desktop Central. You can always reach out to me via email to know in detail about any of these applications. So I will also give you a few pointers on why and how you can prefer cloud-based endpoint management tools over on-premise devices or solutions. First and foremost, I'm sure all of you would have guessed, a cloud-based tool will reduce the cost you invest in your physical infrastructure. Also, it eliminates the need for any other additional security components that you might invest in case of your on-premise solutions. Say you need to have a secondary server in place in case of any failure or backup, or maybe a security component to secure your primary server. All of this can be eliminated when you have a cloud-based solution. Also, ManageEngine's data centers are located in 4 major regions. In case you're trying out any of our on-premise solutions, you can ensure that the migration of your data from on-premise to cloud will be within few minutes with just a few steps. Let me conclude by giving this one particular stat. Cybercrime is projected to hit about 6 trillion annually by the end of 2021. All IT administrators are looking out for solutions to secure and manage their devices, because it is very clear that endpoint management and security is an everyday battle. But the real question is, how prepared are you and your organization to adapt to this new normal? Thank you all for joining me in this session. In case you have any questions or queries, you can always post them on the chat box or at the question section. Feel free to reach out to me via email to my mail ID, which is nisha.p@manageengine.com. Thank you all once again.